We're joined by Kara Allison, who is the Director of Communications for Hull & Associates. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so we're talking about brownfields, and we were just discussing this prior to filming.
Yes.
Grants, financial aspects.
Funding.
Funding, so pertinent.
So critical in putting together a brownfields project. It takes a lot of capital, it takes willing partners, it takes a strong group of investors, but the funding piece is truly important too. At the local level, at the state level, at the federal level, access to grant funding really helps make brownfield projects work.
And you've helped secure some $180 million.
We have, as our company, Hull & Associates, we've been writing grants in the brownfields programs in the various states and communities where we work. And over about a 10, 12-year period, we've won up a total of $180 million, which is great when you leverage the jobs and the impacts that those projects have in the community and how it changes the face of a community by being able to do one of these projects and put a derelict site back onto the tax roll, make it productive again, bring in a new company, and bring new jobs to the community.
What do you want people to know about how they can be just as successful in obtaining those grants and finances?
You have to work hard at it. You have to look very closely, put your ducks in a row. It starts with finding a property. The property that you select, the brownfield site you select, you're gonna look for things like access and infrastructure. Urban sites are great because a lot of them were built with those things to serve it already. Right. So the tough challenge of it is going through the acquisition process and finding the financing to do it. The environmental cleanups are usually the easy part. It gets you into a place in a state where you can redevelop and bring the jobs. But like we talked about earlier, the financing pieces are truly the critical part of building the project.
And along with that, is there a complementary relationship between local, state, and federal in bringing this all together?
We've seen it so much, more and more. There are still private developers out there that are willing to go and do it based on the project and the location. But in the communities that we work with and across the country, from the West Coast to the East Coast, you see the job doesn't get done unless there's a partnership between the local community, the states, the federal government. And a lot of that ties back to the environmental pieces on a property, but it also ties back to the financing. If there's local financing available, if there's state financing available, if there's federal access to federal funds to help supplement all of that cleanup work, then a project moves so much faster. It's when you have a community that is faced with a situation where they may not have a strong state funding program, or they don't have the local dollars because of what the economy has done to local municipalities over the past several years. Those are the sites that continue to struggle. They have maybe a willing buyer that comes in, but then realizes once the challenge they've taken on is too great that they'll step away. So it's really critical that you have those funding pieces available.
And the trends are different across the country.
They are.
Explain.
You'll see, in some parts of the country where you have a very strong active state program where financing and funding is available, you have the ability to create these project teams and put together the development partners and the community and the consulting firms and bring the work together and then find an end user to come to the sites. But if you have a state that is struggling with their funding programs, or they've been devastated from an economic standpoint, and the strength just isn't there behind the financing packages, it makes a world of difference. And you'll see sites that will just continue to sit. They'll continue to sit because there's not an incentive for somebody to come along and buy that property and take it through the cleanup process.
And the real estate market has so much to do with that. Are you seeing signs of recovery?
I think we are. We're turning the corner from where it's been even 2 years ago. We're starting to see a trend, at least in where we work, primarily in the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic. Developers are becoming interested again, and they're seeing sites that are making sense to them, and they're being pointed in their negotiations to acquire the properties. They're being smart about the deals that they make, and they're looking for properties where they can be creative. So we're definitely seeing an uptick in the number of developers and folks that are approaching us with an interest in redeveloping sites, and I think that will begin to ripple across other states as well. But again, it comes back to the financing piece. It's just such an important part of the brownfield deal-making process.
All right, Kara Allison, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Tara.